Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. The Manhwa starts out inside of a fitness center in Seoul. Inside of the staff room we see a man named Choi Kang-yuk live streaming. He goes by Best Gymrat TV. Kang says he's going to do a mukbang today. Then starts to pig out. He says it's good, then takes a sip of his beer. I'm sure you can tell from his body that he enjoys working out. He wasn't always a gym rat, but he was heavily injured in a deployment, during a special forces mission. And he started doing physical therapy, but fell in love with trying to figure out what was optimal for the body. He ended up becoming a Chad personal trainer, and focused on rehabilitation. For those who are wondering why he's doing a mukbang, it's because of COVID, in order to keep up with the cost of the gym's maintenance. He ended up trying streaming out, though the profits weren't good enough to maintain all 5 gyms locations. He does his outro to them all, saying to like and subscribe. I agree with him. He instantly sighs after he ends stream. He says he's worried about tomorrow. He ate so many calories and he wants to work out, but it'd be hard because of the alcohol. He starts to wonder how things got like this. It jumps to a doctor telling him that he's balding due to a high amount of stress, which hurts him. The doctor says if he doesn't de-stress his body will continue to break down. Kang asks what he means, and the doctor says he'll become bald. Kang doesn't want to turn into a Korean Johnny Sins. So that's why he's resting so much too. She says he doesn't know what to do. I think he should lay off the gear. He starts to scroll on his phone, and says not this one, and we see that he's looking at Murim novels. He grew up with his grandparents, and he would often go to the nearby bookstore, and read them. He spots a familiar work, from an author named Gag Yong, and that there's a new one about a Shaolin monk. He says this is unique, and the synopsis is that Mu-jin the protagonist will have to pave his path as a martial artist. He clicks on it to start reading, and instantly finds himself hooked. He says he really feels relaxed, and then he starts to wonder when the last time he relaxed like this was, saying it's like he was back to being a kid. He falls over, saying that he's sleepy, and while he's laying there his phone screen begins to light up. Then he hears someone trying to wake up Mu-jin, for the morning workout. Kang raises up and looks up to see a bald head, and a Shaolin uniform. As a little boy says they need to hurry up or else they'll be yelled at. Kang asks the kid how he got into his house, and the kid asks what he means, saying he's older and bigger than him. Kang is 180 centimeters and 8% body fat, so he's confused. He asks the kid if his eyes are okay, and looks around wondering why he's in his house. But he quickly realizes that he is not in his house, and he's confused. Then he touches his head to see he's bald. He stands up wondering where the hell he is, and why he's bald. Then he remembers the kid called him Mu-jin, and says it's the same as the novel he was reading. He wonders why he's here, and why he had to lose his muscles. He quickly says it must be a dream. The kid says they'll really be late, and Kang, we'll call him Mu-jin from now on, stands up, and says he's an adorable kid. They start to run off, and he says he'll enjoy the situation since it's a dream. An older man yells saying being late first thing in the day, they need to be taught a lesson. He tells Mu-jin and the kid to take their places. Mu-jin says it feels so real for a dream. The man says they'll start with the horse stance first, and Mu-jin looks around to see everyone shaking, like after a bad batch of Taco Bell. But he says they'll hurt their knees like this. Mu-jin says that he started to do proper exercises due to the rehabilitation training. So he understands how important the lower body and core are to bodily health. There were times he saw trainers teaching the wrong technique, and that they would focus on the upper body and ignore the core. So he can tell their posture will lead to issues in the future. Their backs are too rounded, and their legs are too spread. The man yells saying the lower body is the foundation of martial arts. He says if they aren't able to maintain balance with their lower bodies, they can't properly put any strength into punching or their staff techniques. Mu-jin says if he knows all of this, why is he letting them have such poor posture? He grits his teeth. Since it's a dream he won't stand by. He yells saying they don't know a single thing about proper exercise. The older men, and all of the other students look in disbelief. The kid from earlier asks him what's wrong, then the older man asks why he's interrupting a training session with yelling. Some of the other older men too ask if he's doing this so he doesn't have to train, saying it's not befitting of a Shaolin disciple. Mu-jin says he wonders if it's because it's a martial arts novel, but he can feel their energy just from them shouting. Even so he doesn't plan to back down, saying he just pointed out it was flawed. And that it's way easier than having to deal with dumb members in real life. The man asks him if he's saying that the Shaolin training is wrong. Mu-jin says this dream is hella realistic, and he'll play along, by speaking like a martial artist. He tells the man that if they keep training like they are, when they get older the cartilage in their knees will be damaged. The man says it's an excuse made by the weak. Mu Jin asks what he means, saying that martial arts is for the weak to train their bodies and mind, but now he's saying it's not something for the weak to learn. Another man steps up saying the way the Shaolin trains is different from what he said, they train in martial arts to achieve enlightenment. Mu Jin says he sees, and asks if they are saying the Shaolin isn't a place where the weak can obtain enlightenment. The man quickly stammers saying no, they train harshly to train their minds. The mind is weak, so they seek comfort in times of difficulty and evil, and the training is to make it easy to endure through this. Mu Jin says he guesses their minds only need to be trained while they are young, is practically what they are saying to him. Since what he's saying is that in order to train their minds, it's fine to damage their knees when they are young. Since once they are old, they won't need to go through times like that, the other students start to chatter wondering if this is all true. Then Mu Jin points at a much older man, saying he wonders how much he's gone through, to still not have obtained enlightenment. The dude wonders why the hell this kid is so crazy, to say that to the first class disciple Hai Jung. Hai Jung shouts, and causes the students to cover their ears. Mu Jin says that's a lot of pressure. All of the students look towards Hai Jung, and he begins to walk to Mu Jin. Saying he's heard everything he said, and like what the second class disciple said, the martial arts of a Buddhist group is usually to train oneself, however their martial arts are different. Mu Jin asks how. Hai Jung says their martial arts are used to rescue the masses, they use them to protect others from evil and the demons that harass them. Mu Jin sighs, asking if they are just damaging their knees to protect others. Hai Jung stares at him, saying if they leave him be, he'll be a bad influence on the other students, but that the grown-ups cannot punish a young monk personally. So there's one option left, he tells Mu Jin to prove it himself. He points forward saying he wants him to win against those who learned from the Shaolin training method, to prove his point. Mu Jin asks who he'll be fighting, saying surely not a first-class disciple. Hai Jung says it would only be fair if he fought someone who joined at the same time, and gets Mu Gung to step forward. Hai Jung says if what he said is true, in 7 days from now he will spar with Mu Gung to prove himself. Mu Jin says the guy is in a different weight class, saying this is just a mockery of it being called fair, and mockingly says that he's an honorable senior. He agrees to the conditions, saying he'll do that, as there's no way he'd lose to a kid. They'll see in 1 week for now. Hai Jung says he's clearly taking the hard path, Amitabha, it's a Buddhist saying. He tells the rest to get back to training. The kid from earlier asks Mu Jin why he's doing this, saying to just apologize. We finally learn the kid's name is Mu Yul, the other students stare at Mu Jin with annoyed looks, calling him impudent. Hai Jung says he'll see him in a week. Mu Jin starts to sweat, while performing squats instead of doing the horse stance. A second-class disciple asked him why he was doing it, but he told him Hai Jung allowed him to. Hai Jung tells the man to leave him alone too. He smiles and continues squatting, while telling the rest their knees are going to hurt a lot in the future. He says they are so young, asking who'll take responsibility if their knees are damaged. Hai Jung gets annoyed, but tries his best to remain calm, and ignore the shit talking. Mu Jin trained for 2 hours, so now it's time to go munch on some protein, but he doesn't understand the issue he's about to face. He looks down at his food, asking if this is everything they are eating. As Shaolin monks are all vegetarians. While it's natural to be a vegetarian at the temple, he was puzzled since he didn't think about this. He wonders where the hell he'll get his protein, then he begins to wonder why he can smell the food in his dream. He says it smells good, even though it's only vegetables, but in the end it doesn't matter if that's all there is. He starts to shake, saying this is child abuse. They tell him not to talk, but starts to yap saying this is too harsh to only provide vegetables. The second-class disciples tell him to stop talking during meal time, saying this is disrespectful, and one of them says he'll teach him a lesson. Mu Jin wonders why the dude's angry, since he's the one who should be pissed. They need protein, he grits his teeth saying he won't let his training go to waste. A man opens the door, and starts to laugh, everyone looks up to see him. And the second-class disciple shouts saying Hall leader Yun Moon, he takes care of the food here. He looks at Mu Jin says he must be hungry, and if the food isn't enough, he'll get more. Mu Jin says there's enough food, and Hyun Mun asks if he wants more of the side dish. He decides to be generous and overlook his grumbling. Mu Jin then asks if he has any chicken breasts. Everyone is outraged, asking what the hell he's talking about. Mu Yul says he's been acting strange, asking if there's something wrong with his head. Mu Jin says that they need protein, they have to eat it. He looks at Mu Yul's eyes to see himself, and starts to realize things are strange. He gets tired from exercising, he can smell the food. He begins to wonder if this is reality. He quickly says he has to do something about the situation. Since if he's truly a young monk in the temple, he needs to think of something appropriate to say now. He bows his head, saying he's acted weirdly since he's hungry, he just misspoke. Yun Moon says he must have just been tired from training. Mu Jin then asks if he can have more beans and mushrooms. Yun Moon is speechless, and says he's definitely crazy. Whether it's reality or not, Mu Jin knew he needed protein. It jumps to him messing with his brush in class, saying he can't believe they are studying Buddhist scriptures. He starts to think about the what-ifs, saying even if he's in the world of the novel, how on earth will he get back home? Then he wonders if he'll get out when the story is completed. He says based on that perspective it's not bad at all. He's the protagonist, so he has exceptional talent. The Shaolin Temple is the strongest among the Orthodox Alliance. While he's deep in thought he spills his ink. And screams, he realizes he was loud and looks up. To see the other students in disdain, he says that it would seem like he's been marked by the others. But it's too late to change things. He'll just win the spar, and get acknowledged. It jumps to Hai Ijung asking Hyunmun if he's serious, and he laughs saying he's a unique child. Hai Ijung apologizes on his behalf. Then Hyunmun asks what he thinks about Mu Jin. He says that they'll find out in 7 days if Mu Jin is correct or not. Hyunmun laughs, saying that's truly a great idea. They can't punish a disciple because of their thoughts, so they can just prove their point by testing it. He also says that he's heard that Mu Gung is one of the most competent disciples among the new disciples. The temple recruits hundreds of kids every year, but most drop out and they end up with only 10% of the original number. Which is why the other disciples or elders don't generally know the names of the new monks. But Mu Gung was a rare case, as they all knew who he was. Hai Ijung says Mu Gung will teach him a good lesson. It cuts to both of them walking up to the middle of a platform, as a week has passed since they agreed to spar. Hai Ijung tells the both of them to get ready for the fight. It cuts back to Mu Yul asking Mu Jin what he's doing. He says that he's stretching. Mu Yul asks what that is, and Mu Jin explains it in martial arts terms, calling it tendons extension technique. Of course we all know what stretching is in the modern world. But within the novel it's not that well known, especially the benefits of the increased range of motion. Mu Jin says he should give it a try. Some other kids talk about it as Mu Yul starts to stretch under Mu Jin's guidance. They hear other kids talking about Mu Gung, then they see him punching the air. The kids say he's incredible, and you can hear snapping sounds from his punches. Mu Jin says if he gets hit by that, he'll be in deep trouble, and he wonders how he's going to beat him within this kid's body, but he has an idea. Saying he just needs to use his size to his advantage. Hai Ijung says it seems like Mu Jin wasn't just trying to escape training. While he didn't listen to the others, he was still training in his own way. He's training with a tree, saying he's practicing to take down Mu Gung instantly. Mu Yul asks how him rubbing against a tree will help. Hai Ijung looks down at him, and chuckles, saying Mu Gung will teach him a great lesson. Mu Gung is happy that Hai Ijung is acknowledging him, and apologizes to Mu Jin saying he'll trample him. But then he sees Mu Jin throwing it back. As he's loosening up his joints before their spar starts, Mu Jin asks Hai Ijung if they can start immediately. They both get annoyed, saying he is acting tough. He starts to step forward, saying he'll show him. He says he's ready to start too, and that he'll show him the punches he's been training for the last 3 months. It starts, and Mu Jin runs straight in at him. This startles Mu Gung, and as Mu Jin gets closer, Mu Gung tries to back away from him. He punches straight at his head, but it gets dodged. Everyone is surprised instantly by Mu Jin uses the dodge trajectory to grab onto Mu Gung's leg. He says he can't use the martial arts he's trained, since he's from the special forces he could kill the kid on accident. So the most efficient way to take him down will be with a tackle. They fall to the floor. After the spar started, the time it took for Mu Gung to be subdued was just a little over a second, as he gets put into an armbar. The students ask what's going on, and wonder if Mu Gung can get out of this, and some of them are worried saying that is impossible. For him to be subdued so quickly, and be in such pain. Mu Gung wonders what the hell is going on here. The second-class disciples began to give Mu Gung some advice, but even though they don't know what an armbar is, they can tell it's bad. They know exactly how painful it must be for his arm. Mu Jin calls out to him, saying if he resists his arm will break, so just surrender. The second-class disciples still try to tell him to get up. But Mu Jin assures him that if he exerts any more strength he will snap his arm. so he needs to give up immediately. Mu Gung starts to grunt as his arm gets closer and closer to snapping, and then starts to just cry. Mu Jin is surprised, and so are the other kids. Mu Jin quickly lets go saying he's sorry, and they all turn towards Hae Young, asking him what they should do now. Mu Jin helps Mu Gung get up, asking why they had to make two kids fight, and Mu Jin is declared the winner. We learn that the chain punch is one of the 8 extremities fist, which uses the entire upper body to generate a powerful force, which lets you quickly defeat your opponent. It's known for being very powerful. Mu Gung has the most proficiency among the younger monks. Even the second-class disciples were impressed by Mu Gung's chain punch, yet he pathetically lost without any form of resistance to some weird techniques. Mu Gung keeps crying, saying that this is unfair. Mu Jin asks what he means. Mu Gung says he charged as soon as they started, using something that wasn't the chain punch. He shouts saying he can win against anyone in a fair fight. Mu Jin tries comforting him, but messes up his name, which made him cry more. The other disciples say that Mu Gung has a point. Mu Jin turns around and sees them. They say that one should use the Shaolin arts when sparring here. Saying he broke the rules, Mu Jin wonders what kind of ridiculous ideology that is. The disciple then asks why he didn't use the chain punch. He says if he had used the chain punch the fight would have lasted for longer, and they could have gotten more injured, so he just prioritized making the duel quick. He said he did make him cry, but he didn't leave a single physical injury on his body. They say that's nonsense, since it wasn't a Shaolin art. He says they are the ones talking nonsense. They struggle to rebuttal since the chain punch was defeated so easily, by some strange technique at that. They don't want to admit it, but they are just refusing to acknowledge he lost. They don't want people to doubt the Shaolin arts, or that the new disciples might be discouraged and leave. They look back at Hae Jung wondering what the plan is. But they see him smiling, at the whole situation. Hae Jung calls out to him, asking if he truly did that technique just to not cause him harm. Mu Jin says yes. Hae Jung says that is the true essence of Shaolin, and smiles saying he's the winner. Everyone is surprised by this, however the reason his skill was more effective was because the opponent's level was that of a loser. The ultimate reason they learn martial arts, is to take down evil and the demonic heads who've learned martial arts. So he'll show the true essence to Shaolin, the real power that can take down their enemies. He orders the rest to bring him a boulder. They bring one over. I think that's a big demonstration of their power. They start to wonder if he's going to break the rock with his fist, and Hae Jung tells them to watch closely. This is the true power of the chain punch they are learning. Takes a deep breath in, then readies himself, channeling his energy into his fist. Then exhales upon punching the rock. The rock begins to crack, and shatters as he punches a hole through it. The rock shatters to the ground, and everyone is pogging out of their gourds. Hae Jung looks smug and turns after receiving all of their compliments. Even Mu Jin is stun-locked, and says whoa. He starts to grin, saying that's a real martial artist. He says this is how it should be, one hit being enough to break open a mountain, one swing can take down hundreds of enemies. A single punch putting a hole through someone, then he realizes something. He says that Hae Jung mentioned overpowering the enemy without harming them. Hae Jung says yes, like it's a question. Mu Jin points out he broke the boulder into pieces, and they all look at it and realize it doesn't make sense now they are thinking about it, so nobody could say anything. Later that day, we see another man named Yun Sung talking about the fight with Hae Jung. Hae Jung says Mu Jin may be rather arrogant, but he trains his chain punch the most out of the students. He's worried though. Yun Sung asks if he's worried that he's only training the chain punch to learn its weakness. He says yes, saying it could be bad if Mu Jin is a spy of one of the unorthodox sects, or the demonic cult. Of course Mu Jin is just a modern-era Gymrat. Yun Sung says he probably isn't, and he wouldn't do something so eye-catchy if he were. Hae Jung suggests maybe it's reverse psychology, but Yun Sung tells him not to worry, he's just a new disciple, and they'll find out over time if he's a spy or not. But he has an idea, and says maybe he's from a martial family. Hae Jung says it makes sense, as he doubts Mu Jin came up with those ideas by himself, about the training. Yun Sung says the greatest figure in a child's life is their father. Maybe he wanted to prove that Hae's father's teachings are better than the Shaolins who've been around for so long. But says since he defeated Mu Gung he'll become more arrogant, wondering what to do about him. But then cooks something up, saying they can leave him to Baeb Gong. Hae Jung asks if he means the one in the discipline court. He says no, he's in the Arhat Hall instead. They agree it's a good idea. Then it jumps to some of the second-class disciples saying goodnight to one another. Then one of them spots something. That shocks him. He says they should go somewhere else, and they look around to see what he's scared of. They see a man doing the horse stance, and we learn that it's none other than Babe Gang. They wonder what he's doing here. One of them says he's doing the horse stance, and the rest say no shit, and ask why he's not at the training ground. They say he must have wanted to keep training without rest. They all start laughing, saying there's a reason he's called the Mad Dog. Dude is obsessed with training. They laugh, saying the discipline hall is a good fit for them. Then one of them tell him that he'll be moving to the Arhat hall instead. He yells, asking why the hell he'd be doing that, and the other freaks out too, asking if they'll have to live with the Mad Dog again. He's always grilled the juniors ever since they were third-class disciples, but it turns out he wants to join all the halls and learn the differences in their rules, before going back to the discipline court. They say it's expected. He's obsessed with the rules. Babe Gang has worked hard to be a role model for the rest. He also spent way more time training, and his knees were constantly under tension due to this. If he didn't use internal energy, he'd experience so much pain that walking would be tough. But he didn't care, as he considered it to be part of his mental training. He chose to embrace the pain. He just finished doing the horse stance for 30 minutes. He's heard rumors of Mu Jin, and how he's a problem child. But says he'll teach him the correct mindset a disciple should have. It jumps to the next day, with the disciples freaking out that Babe Gong is standing in front of them all. They ask and he says he'll be joining them all today. Mu Jin sees him, and Babe Gang laughs, saying he's looking forward to working with them all. Mu Jin says he's absolutely diced to the gills. He notices the second-class disciples aren't happy about him being here. But the first-class disciples have no idea who the hell he is. Mu Jin quickly understood what's going on, and says he must be Babe Gong, almost like they haven't been saying it for so long. They start their morning training, and first thing up is horse stance. Babe Gong says the first thing to do is find the root problem. If he knows the problem, he can solve it. He walks behind Mu Jin while saying all of this, then spots him. Saying his legs are spread wider than his shoulders, he comments on how his posture is different, and starts to mimic the way he's doing it. He starts copying the squats he was doing and says it's not any different, and he feels the same pain as from the horse stance. He gets angry, thinking it's just a trick, and goes to say something to him. But Mu Jin says he isn't doing it right. Mu Jin asks what he means, and he tells him his posture is wrong. Babe Gang asks him to explain, and Mu Jin realizes he'll have to teach him so much, and says he doesn't know why he's copying him, but he can hear his knees screaming with every squat, and he can't ignore this. He thinks about how it'd be beneficial to have him on his side, and decides to win him over since he has authority here. He tells him that copying him will just make his knees worse, and asks if he can trust him and listen to how he instructs him to move. We see Babe Gong in a lunge pose, and Mu Jin says it's good he's flexible, and says that this technique loses the muscles in his knees. If he does this before the actual exercise, he'll be able to exercise smoothly, while reducing the pressure placed on his knees. He tells him to do it for a 30 seconds interval, and that'll make a set, and he just needs to do it 3 times. Babe Gong asks what a set is. Mu Jin says he misspoke. Then notices that his knees are shaking, and quickly massages it, asking if he's feeling better. But he looks visibly pained. Mu Jin says this is bad. If just a light touch hurts his knees, it must be insanely damaged. Babe Gang starts to calm down, and says at first it felt like someone hit his knee, but now it feels refreshing. Mu Jin says alright then, they were on the second round, so they should start again, since training waits for no man. Babe Gong starts to wonder what kind of kid Mu Jin is. The other students see Mu Jin encouraging him, and Haijung wonders what the hell is going on. Mu Jin says when his knees feel bad, he just has to do this. Due to his nickname of being the Mad Dog, the other second-class disciples understand exactly what kind of obsessive person he is, but now they see he's being friendly. Training with a new monk, we see Mu Jin tell him to rest a bit, then they'll do it again 15 times. Mu Jin explains how earlier he was doing air squats, but he shouldn't since his knees are cooked. And he needs to bend his knees just slightly to take the pressure off his knees. He says he'll summarize it and tell him the sequence. First, you bend your knee slightly, and slowly descend down. Second, as you go to sit you must focus on your glutes and thighs to descend rather than the knees. Third, just like step 2, only use the same parts when ascending. He asks how his knees feel, and Babe Gang says they feel fine. Mu Jin says that's good, and to rest a little. He says he's definitely feeling less pain. Mu Jin says now they've done this, the next exercise will be focused on his calves. He explains that usually those with fierce appearances are often weak to friendly people. Mu Jin quickly compliments him, and Babe Gang laughs, saying he's been here for 18 years. The first-class disciples wonder if he's truly gone mad, and Hae-jung starts to pray since his blood pressure is spiking like crazy, and he decides to ignore them for now. They start to head to get food, and Mu-jin reminds him to make sure to do as he said before he trains. To others it looks like Babe-gang was blindly following his orders, but that isn't the case. He's decided to follow them after trying them himself. This is what he's decided after receiving personal training, stretching lessons and a massage from a top-class personal trainer. He thinks his techniques are incredible, he says they were really effective, and he experiences almost none of the usual pain he does with his knees, and he could feel the muscles on his legs stretch as he trained. He asks Mu-jin if it's techniques taught by his family. He asks what he means. Babe-gang explains that since his techniques are so effective he must be from an extraordinary family. He was told those techniques were passed down within Mu-jin's family. He smirks, saying this is a good misunderstanding. He says he did act strangely at the start, and wondered how to explain it all, but now he won't. He goes along with it. Babe-gang laughs, saying they are goated. But that his praise only applies to the treatment for his knees. They are training for martial arts, and the Shaolin is 1,000 years old. He understands Mu-jin's heart for his family, but it'd be great if he trained the Shaolin way too. He says he'll take note of that. Then Mu-yul asks if he's done. Mu-jin says yes and tells Babe-gang he'll see him later. Babe-gang smiles watching him leave, and hears Hae-jung clear his throat. He apologizes for being unsightly. Hae-jung says he's glad he's aware. Babe-gang says the know thy enemy quote, and Hae-jung sighs asking what he thinks about it. He says from what he's experienced, Mu-jin isn't from a martial family, but rather a family of physicians. He asks him why he thought so. He continues saying he should say this first. But his knees are all torn from the training. He didn't tell anyone as he didn't want them to worry, and more importantly he didn't want to show his weak side. Even the juniors who trained with him for 10 years haven't noticed his knees are screwed up, but Mu-jin could tell right away from how he was bent, and then Mu-jin taught him movements that didn't hurt his knees at all. Hae-jung says his family must be physicians for a martial family, and wonders what to do. Saying the training of Shaolin is about to collapse. Babe-gang says not to worry, he's sure Mu-jin will walk the right path, and young kids usually listen to adults they are close with, instead of force. He'll get close and slowly teach him the Shaolin methods. Hae-jung says alright, but to take it slow for now, and that he's counting on him. A while later in the afternoon training, we see Mu-jin is annoyed saying having to do Buddhism lessons after breakfast blows, and he wonders if it's because he's young, but the food coma is real. They head to their training, and Hae-jung says since they are good at the chain punch, it's time to move to the next step. One can only exert the full prowess of martial arts, by combining internal and external energy. So now they'll start to prepare them on their internal energy journey. He sends out 2 disciples to demonstrate how to them all. He tells them to get into the lotus position, and Mu-jin wonders what's going to happen. He sees them sitting down on the floor, and they cross their legs. He says he recognizes it now. They both close their eyes and focus on breathing. He tells them to take a deep breath, and let it pass through their nose and throat fully, and keep breathing until it reaches their energy cores. Mu-jin starts to get excited, saying he can finally learn the martial arts he's been dreaming of. He says he's been getting sick of the same exercises for now, and now it's time for martial arts. He wasn't the only one excited, all of the other students were too. As it gave new reasons for them to train hard. They were all dreaming of being able to break the boulder like Hae-jung too. They focused on his voice, and followed the breathing patterns too, but Mu-jin says something about this training is weird. If you've watched till the end, comment, horse, to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.